Welcome to This Horror Real.
The locked door opened 2 inches after someone knocked, and I was alone on my couch staring at the chain like it was the only thing keeping him out. I hadn't touched the door. I hadn't moved from my spot. I had just muted the TV after 3 soft knocks came from the hallway. And before I could even ask who it was, the freaking handle dipped, the lock clicked, and the door pushed inward until the chain snapped tight. For a second, all I could see was the dark hallway through that thin crack. Then I heard breathing on the other side, slow and close, like the person had their mouth almost against the opening. I didn't call out. I didn't want him to know how scared I was, but then a man whispered, "I know you're in there." I lived on the second floor of a small apartment building where every sound carried through the walls. My unit sat at the very end of the hallway, right beside the stairwell door, which always made me uncomfortable at night because people passed through there at all hours. Earlier that night, I came home around 10, locked the deadbolt, hooked the chain, and checked both again after taking out the trash. I remember doing it because something had already felt really wrong. The hallway had gone strangely quiet after I was back inside, like somebody nearby had stopped moving the second I closed my door. I ignored it at the time. A few minutes later, 3 soft knocks hit my front door. Before I could even stand up from the couch, the handle slowly turned. I heard the deadbolt click back with a sharp metal snap, and the door pushed inward until the chain caught hard. Now my door hung open 2 inches against the chain, and I was staring straight into the dark hallway outside. I grabbed my phone off the couch and saw the battery sitting at 7%. My charger was across the room near the front door, and there was no way I was walking closer to that crack. The hallway light outside flickered once, and the narrow opening between the door and frame went dark for half a second before turning bright again. That's when I noticed part of a shoe near the threshold. Whoever was out there hadn't moved. I whispered to myself that maybe it was the wrong apartment, but then the man quietly said, "You always leave that light on." My stomach dropped instantly. My kitchen light was glowing behind me, and there was no reason a stranger should know that. My hands shook while I dialed 911. I crouched lower behind the couch and whispered my address to the operator while staring at the crack in the door. She asked if the person had entered the apartment, and I didn't know how to answer because technically he wasn't inside, but nothing about the apartment felt safe anymore. While I was speaking, the floor outside creaked softly under his weight. Then he said, calm and low, "Don't call anyone." I froze so hard, I stopped breathing for a second. The operator kept asking if I was still there, but I covered the speaker with my hand because I didn't know how much he could hear through the opening. Then he tapped one finger against the door. Not a knock, just a quiet reminder that he was still standing there. The operator told me to get farther from the entrance, so I backed slowly toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. I never took my eyes off that cracked doorway. Then something black slid under the front door. At first I thought it was some kind of tool, but when it came into the kitchen light, I realized it was a phone. He was pushing it under the door, camera first, trying to see where I was standing. I stepped backward so fast my heel slammed into the coffee table. The phone paused halfway under the door, then slowly pulled back out into the hallway. A second later, the man whispered, "Bedroom won't help." My entire body went cold because my bedroom door was directly behind me. I ran into my bedroom and shoved my dresser in front of the door hard enough to scrape the floor. The sound echoed through the apartment, and I instantly regretted it because now he knew exactly where I was hiding. I shut the bedroom door and pressed myself against it while listening. From the living room, the chain rattled once, then again, then harder. He wasn't kicking the door or forcing it violently. He was testing it slowly, patiently, like he already knew how far it could stretch before breaking. My phone battery dropped to 5% while the operator kept repeating that officers were on the way. Then the chain snapped tight again, and I heard the front door open slightly wider. Then he said something that completely changed the entire night for me. "You took the trash out late tonight." I stopped breathing. I had taken the trash out around 10:18 because the bag smelled bad, and I didn't want it sitting in the kitchen overnight. Nobody should have noticed that. Then he added, "Usually you do it before 9." My legs went weak. That was the moment I realized he hadn't chosen my apartment randomly. He had been watching me long enough to know my habits, my timing, and my routine. Suddenly, every normal thing I had done over the past few weeks felt exposed. Every trip to my car, every grocery run, every night I came home alone. I thought I had been alone this whole time, but I hadn't been unnoticed. The rattling stopped completely, and somehow that scared me worse than the noise. I pressed my ear against the bedroom door and heard nothing coming from the living room. No breathing, no footsteps, no movement. The operator asked me what was happening, and all I could whisper back was, "I don't know." Then suddenly my TV volume increased by itself, not loud, just enough to notice. The remote was still on the couch where I left it. I knew that for a fact. Then the TV muted again. A second later, the man whispered from somewhere much closer than the front door, too loud. My stomach folded into itself because I realized he was no longer standing outside the apartment. I stared directly at the bedroom doorknob while holding my breath. At first it stayed still, then it slowly rotated downward from the other side. The dresser stopped the door from opening, but the handle kept turning gently like he wanted me to hear every movement. I slid onto the floor and pushed both feet against the dresser while gripping the lamp from my nightstand with shaking hands. My phone battery dropped to 3%. The operator kept asking if there was another exit, but my bedroom window had been painted shut years earlier by maintenance. Then the doorknob stopped moving. 3 seconds later, he knocked softly on my bedroom door, 3 quiet taps, exactly the same way he knocked on the front door. I texted my next-door neighbor, Deshaun, with trembling hands and begged him to call the police. The message delivered immediately, but there was no response. Then the man outside my bedroom door calmly said, "Deshaun left at 10:30. I nearly dropped my phone." He said it so casually, like he was helping me understand there was nobody coming to save me. How did he know who I was texting? My phone battery hit 2% while distant sirens finally started echoing somewhere outside the building. The bedroom handle turned again. The dresser slid slightly against the floor. I pushed back with everything I had. The terrifying part was that he wasn't forcing the door aggressively. He sounded patient, calm, as if he knew I wouldn't be able to hold it closed. He was toying with me. As the sirens got closer, the pressure against the bedroom door suddenly stopped. For a few seconds, the apartment became completely silent. Then something slammed hard in the living room. Maybe the front door, maybe the wall. I couldn't tell. Then the bedroom door shook violently once, hard enough to crack part of the door frame near the lock. I screamed before I could stop myself. "Officers are entering the building," the operator shouted. Then everything went silent again. No running footsteps, no stairwell door, no front door opening, just complete silence. The kind of silence that makes you wonder whether the person had left or whether they're standing perfectly still nearby, waiting for you to move first. When police finally entered the apartment, they found me sitting in front of the bedroom door with a lamp in my hands and my dead phone lying beside me on the carpet. The front door was hanging wide open. The chain was still attached to the wall. The screws holding the chain plate had been ripped completely off the door. Fresh scratches covered the deadbolt, and a thin piece of black plastic sat near the entrance floor. But the detail that made one officer stop talking was the TV remote. It had been moved from the couch to the floor directly outside my bedroom door. My kitchen light was also off, even though I knew I never turned it off. Police searched the stairwell, the laundry room, and the parking lot, but nobody found him. The next morning, apartment management showed me the hallway camera footage. I expected to finally see him leaving when the police arrived. Instead, the footage made everything worse. It showed him standing outside my apartment before he knocked, while staring directly into my peephole for almost 10 full seconds. Then he knocked softly. Seconds later, my locked door opened against the chain. After that, the hallway camera glitched for 14 seconds. When the video returned, the hallway outside my apartment was completely empty, but my door was still hanging partially open. There was no footage showing him leaving down the stairs, no footage showing him entering the elevator, no footage showing him leaving my floor, nothing. I moved out 2 weeks later because I couldn't sleep there anymore. Every hallway sound made my chest tighten. Every knock anywhere in the building made me freeze. But the part that still keeps me awake is something management told me after checking older camera footage. 3 nights before everything happened, the same man had been standing inside the stairwell beside my apartment for almost 20 minutes. He barely moved the entire time. Right before leaving, he leaned his head close against the wall next to my living room, like he was listening through it. That means when he knocked on my door that night, he wasn't checking whether I was home. He already knew. If this story made you look toward your own front door, trust that feeling. Some people don't knock because they're confused. Some people knock because they already know exactly who's inside. Subscribe to this horror reel for more realistic horror stories that feel close enough to happen tonight.